It's Hadassah Monique, aka the Stoned Priestess. And I just want to talk a little bit about being on the spectrum as a woman and being intuitive. Being on the spectrum as a woman is different than being on the spectrum as a man. We're often misdiagnosed with ADHD, bipolar, or borderline personality disorder, mood swing disorders, and I guess the list goes on and on. But my personal experience as an autistic, a woman on the spectrum, and being intuitive is a little complicated. And it really starts in the beginning as a child. Of course, I did not develop my speech properly. My mom would probably tell you that since I had a twin, my twin and I had a language. We had names for things, and I still remember calling my dolls Monas, for example. And my twin and I had this shared language. Now, my twin advanced faster than I did, and I was still speaking baby speech, and I had to take speech therapy, and I was seeing a therapist, and I took special ed classes all the way up until high school. So that to me already that to me already like says, well, yeah, duh, I'm on the spectrum. But having intuitiveness, being intuitive and being on the spectrum complicates things because while I was seeing things that would happen in the future, I would also, not believe in ghosts. And basically, I was just in denial that things that could not be seen existed and that I needed to acknowledge it. I grew up believing in God because I was part of the Jehovah Witness cult. And when we finally left, I developed my own opinions about what God was. Eventually, I sort of just kind of put God on the back seat, and my intuitive stuff was still happening. I turned to science, and when I couldn't find answers as to why these things were happening to me, these predictions, I would just know what was going to happen, and nothing could explain these coincidences. And I just sort of like came up, well, coincidences happen. I believe in coincidences, but coincidences don't negate the fact that these things are real and that these things are happening to me. And I know that I knew that I was not alone in this. I mean, my family is fairly intuitive, so it wasn't a big deal when I told my mom that I was seeing these things. It's just that as I got older, I realized that this was not normal, and I was already being bullied because of my speech issues and because I was taking extra classes. So I just wanted to be normal. Being able to talk to dead things or dead people and knowing what's going to happen wasn't normal. Being on the spectrum was not normal. And so I spent a great deal of my time trying to be normal. So this was my whole growing up thing. And I never resolved it because it kind of like, I don't want to say it ruined my life, but it really, like, it ruled over my life. My whole life was spent, at least all the way up until my early 20s, was spent running away from this gift that I felt was a curse and trying to be liked by people who would have never liked me anyway, no matter how normal I tried to be. And then I got slapped with other issues other health problems. So it's very difficult, and my speech is really bad. I don't being it's already I already deal with anxiety, and my speech issues get in the way on top of that. And then of course my Tourette's, that's a whole different kind of like bag of chips. I'm not even going to talk about my Tourette's thing in this video, but I kind of wanted to start a dialogue, and I wanted to see if there were other people that are dealing with these things, being intuitive and being on the spectrum. And I think for some people it goes hand in hand, because part of being on the spectrum is overstimulation or overwhelming activity around you. And it's kind of similar, because for me, when I step into a room, depending on the energy that's felt there, I feel like I'm being like there's stones on everybody's head, and I'm walking into this room and all these stones are on top of people's head, right? And so like they all stone me to death. I feel like I'm being crushed to death. And I remember feeling that way even when I was little. I was extremely shy and I didn't speak, if at all. I rarely spoke because of my speech issues and being a late talker, whatever. And it feels that way. And it's kind of like, well, that's also a autism symptom, I think. Another example is, I don't think this qualifies as an example, but I'm a very I don't I don't like fiction. And it's ironic because people who look at intuitives feel like that we are fictional, that we live in this fictional world, and that we have our heads up in the clouds and everything, and it's not necessarily always the case. I love science and I love learning about things. I like reading when I'm able to read, and when I do read, I read nonfiction. I like comic books and stuff, but I like Japanese comic books, and I haven't been able to find time to read as much as I used to. Um, but if you were to look at my YouTube account, most of the things that I watch are like eons, timeline, documentaries, bright side. I watch history based stuff, even paranormal stuff. I don't spend a lot of time on celebrities or knowing who is who and what is what and stuff. Like, I don't care what people are doing with their lives very much. I much rather learn something. So I'm constantly always thinking and solving problems in my head. So it seems like I am living this, what's it called? Um, I'm a living contradiction. Uh, it would look like I'm a living contradiction, because a lot of people think that psychics and intuitives are bullshit artists. And that's how I used to think, because I was in denial of my own gifts and I didn't want to believe in any of that stuff, because it would require me to believe in something that I didn't necessarily have complete faith in. And so my whole spiritual journey began about 5 years ago, and it required me to completely start fresh with a clean plate. And it meant that I had to toss all of my preconceived notions and all of the things that I made myself believe out of the window, and adapt to a new way of thinking and a new way of life. And it was not easy at all, because I still find myself questioning my sanity, but crazy people don't know that they're crazy. And that is one thing that I really do believe. I have speech issues, so I have problems like translating my thought into speech sometimes. So I'm sorry if I if I'm hard to follow, because like it's another thing, another like autism symptom thing that I deal with is thoughts to speech. And my thoughts, it's like I'm still using that language that I developed when I was younger, when I was very little. That language that I spoke with my brother, it's as if that language is never left. And English is my second language. And that's what it feels like. It's kind of like I don't speak any other languages. I know a little bit of Dutch, a little Spanish, and a little bit of Japanese, but I don't speak fluently. And I know very little because I hardly ever use it. So the language that's in my head is completely different from the languages that I try to learn. So sometimes when I speak, it's like the what I want to say is here, but I can't translate my thoughts into words. And it's extremely frustrating. So when it comes to and sometimes when I'm feeling things that I can't really explain, and I know that it's coming from something or somewhere, I can tell a difference when it's just like, I can tell the difference from it meaning nothing and it meaning something, because it's sort of like a little signature in these feelings that I have. And in that signature, I can just pinpoint, okay, I'm feeling this way because this person right over here, somewhere over here, this person is feeling this. And then I can differentiate that to something that doesn't mean anything at all because it doesn't have like a signature, a feeling signature. I don't know how to explain it, but I've learned to tell the difference between it meaning nothing and my feelings meaning something. And when I am communicating with spirit, it's the same thing. I can tell whether or not it means something or if it means nothing. So so I'm hoping that I am making sense, because I just have this habit of going off the rails into something, and then I just lose my thought process and my speech process, and I start like slurring my words and I sound retarded or whatever. That's because I'm a little retarded. But yeah, being the kind of person that likes to solve issues, when there is a problem that I can't solve, something that is spiritual related, not being able to pinpoint the who, what, when, where, and how, and why these things have happened to me is very stressful. And it's also very, very isolating, because a lot of my friends are like me. They are very logical and they're very scientific, and they don't dabble in spiritual related or occult stuff. And I believe that some of us that are on the spectrum, some of us women who are on the spectrum and who are spiritual, we are spiritual nerds. Hello. We are occult and spiritual nerds. We know a lot about occult and spiritual stuff. And being a nerd is sort of like a high functioning autistic sign, I believe. But backing to where my friends are. So a lot of my friends don't believe in, spiritual stuff. And so it's kind of isolating because I can't talk about these things with them, because then they would think differently of me. And it's kind of hard because I want to have these conversations and I would like to get into scientific stuff on it. Like, I would love for my brain to be studied while I'm communicating with spirits and stuff. Like, that would be totally cool if I could get a brain study. It's just, I find it so fascinating and frightening at the same time. But that's just, that's all I can really say, really. It's a very complicated situation. Are you a woman who's on the spectrum and also is intuitive and struggling with the symptoms of being intuitive and the symptoms of being on the spectrum? Let me know. We should probably talk. I so far I know about a couple of other people who are like me, and we all have the same sort of consensus, or we all have similar experiences. So I know I'm not alone, but I just thought I would try to start a dialogue. Anyway, bye.